We are sitting under a whole lot of sunshine across central Oregon, and the warming trend is taking shape. Hey everyone, good afternoon. I'm Darrell Winninger, the Chief Meteorologist at Central Oregon Daily News, and here through the last couple of days, I've been teasing this warm up, and hey, we're really starting to feel it. Now today's still 60s and some 70s across central Oregon, so we're expecting a cool night, but the next couple of days is when temperatures warm through the 70s and reach into the 80s, and right now, it looks like the conditions that we're expecting through the next several days. We have all of this sunshine. If you're spending a lot of time outdoors, you'll need some sunscreen, and that's going to be the case all the way through this week. And so if you've been waiting on that first real stretch of summer-like conditions where temperatures are through the 80s, even reaching into the 90s, it looks like it's here. So get those paddle boards ready, or the floats, or whatever it is that you like to take out on the river or lakes across central Oregon, because it looks like this weekend is going to be prime for those conditions. So right now there are just a few light clouds across central Oregon, and roads are dry across the high desert and through the Cascades. Now with this sunshine, we're not expecting any rain at all through the next several days. Even our satellite and radar imagery doesn't show much. We actually have to zoom out to really get a hold on where those clouds are across central Oregon. Over Idaho, getting into Montana, that's where there is some precipitation. Part of that system that rolled out of the Pacific Northwest yesterday, and now we're done with the transition but to high pressure, but we're waiting on that big jump in temperatures that's really going to take us to the next level, and that happens through the day tomorrow. And as we're wrapping up this work week, we just continue to warm. Here's what I'm talking about. Thursday's at-a-glance graphic shows very little in the way of cloud cover, maybe a few light clouds. No precipitation in sight, mostly just a light breeze, but look at those temperatures coming from a cool start to either side of 80 degrees by 5 p.m. And then we just continue to warm a little bit more each day. It does slow down. The warming trend slows down Saturday. That's because of a very weak system that barely brings much at all in the way of cloud cover. The high pressure just flattens a little bit briefly, and that slows down our warming trend. Not even much in the way of any energy rolling through with that one. We could see some clouds. Winds will get a little breezy, and that's about it. But when it comes to our infrared satellite imagery with the enhancement on it that really picks out that thunderstorm activity where we have the oranges and reds in the clouds, there's just not much to show here across central Oregon right now. We actually have to zoom out to get a better picture of what's happening. Through the Midwest, there is another, and Great Lakes region, there is another mesoscale convective system that's bringing the risk of severe weather, including but not limited to severe thunderstorms and maybe the potential for some tornadoes. This is the same line of thunderstorms that was over the Dakotas yesterday afternoon, but here across central Oregon we have clear conditions, and that high pressure is just continuing to develop, continuing to expand into the Pacific Northwest, and this is the same high pressure that we're going to sit under through the next several days. In fact, when we get a better view of what's happening by zooming out a little bit more, we have that low over the Great Lakes region, another low over the Bering Sea, and it actually looks like quite a bit of convection between here and there, but this high pressure is going to form what we refer to as an omega block, wherein it actually takes the shape of the Greek letter omega, but those types of blocks, blocking patterns I should say, they just anchor themselves over the region that we're talking about. So for this case, it's high pressure anchoring itself over the Pacific Northwest, and it stays in place. It pushes the jet stream a little further to the north, and that keeps us dry. Not so good news if you're in agriculture or once we really start to get to critical fire conditions. But if you've been waiting to get outside and do some summer stuff on the high desert, this looks like it might be your weekend, your weekend. Now, our forecast model shows a few clouds during the next couple of days, mostly sunshine, winds getting a little breezy at times, and no precipitation in sight. We're going to look at the bigger picture coming up in just a little bit, but let's focus on just how dry it is. In fact, we're going to come back to this graphic. I'm going to pull up water vapor imagery just to point out how we have this huge dry air mass that's already encroaching into the high desert, and it gets even drier further to the south, further to the west, and that's the air mass that's coming into central Oregon, bringing with it that warming air. And so when we go ahead and look at relative humidity values, right now we're dry. It's going to get a lot drier. We're going to be seeing these numbers percentage-wise get down into the teens, maybe even some single digits, especially as we go through this weekend with with those much hotter temperatures and not any additional moisture rolling into the Pacific Northwest. So highs in the last 24 hours, 60s with a few 70s, right on target with the forecast. We still have a little bit of warming left to go before we call it a day. And so by later tonight, we'll be seeing different numbers there. But ultimately, we're running between 1 and 10 degrees warmer than 24 hours ago. Earlier today, we were actually a couple degrees cooler, and that was because it just got pretty chilly through the overnight. And tonight, we're still looking at another round of 30s and 40s for lows. Then tomorrow, look at this. Through Thursday, highs warm quickly through the 70s, then into the 80s, peaking into the 80s for many of us, just not quite everybody. And so on top of that, the UV intensity forecast is going to be very high. Under this steep solar angle that we have, the intense angle that we have in June, and it's only increasing here through the next several days, really until we get to the summer solstice. But we have very high UV intensity forecast through the next couple of days. On top of that, it's hot, or warming, I should say. We will be getting hot by the time we get into early next week. But either way, just stay hydrated, seek the shade, and use that sunscreen. Reapply the sunscreen every 2 hours, especially if you're spending a lot of time outdoors all the way through this weekend. We're going from 9s to 10s, and that's out of 12 plus. But basically it's just saying that, hey, it's going to be very high. Keep that in mind. So through Thursday, we're really starting to get under the influence of this high pressure. Today it started, tomorrow it continues. But this is also when the tail end of a warm front works its way through the high desert. This low fizzles out, but it comes with that little bit of a warm-up front that is going to bump us to either side of 80 degrees and into the 80s Friday and Saturday. During that entire time, no precipitation in sight. Winds get breezy, especially on Saturday, but under this high pressure, as it continues to amplify, we're just looking at tons of sunshine and very dry conditions. So through the next couple of days, we have either side of 80 degrees. We've been talking about that a lot. That is one of the milestones that we're hitting here through the next 24 hours. Then mid-80s. Then by Sunday, the warming trend resumes. Notice it almost stalls out a little bit. And in some parts of Central Oregon, we're actually going to be running slightly cooler Saturday than we are Friday. Either way, temperatures are well above average for this time of the year, nearly 10 degrees warmer than they should be. But this is because the high pressure's flattening a little bit. And that's just opening the door for a little bit more cloud cover and that slowdown in our warming trend. But it takes shape again. By Monday and Tuesday, that's when we're actually flirting with the low 90s. Meanwhile, your forecast model doesn't show much in the way of change. Under high pressure, we have very little in the way of cloud cover, absolutely no precipitation in sight. And even by Friday, Saturday, Sunday, keeping it mostly clear, just some light clouds working their way through the high desert. And when we take it to the GFS and look at that long-range forecast model, it's pretty much lining up with the high-resolution one and the one that we typically use on air, that Barron model. And it just shows our sunshine. It shows winds getting a little breezy at times through the afternoon hours, and it's not really until we get well into next week that some additional clouds are going to be possible, but still very dry. So between now and really through the 7-day planner, we're dry. We're not looking at any precipitation at all. Now, wind gusts at the moment up to 20 to 25 miles per hour. Not as strong as they were yesterday, but still a little breezy during the afternoon and evening. And that continues through the rest of this evening until sunset. That's when we start to taper off. In fact, I'll show you that in a second. Actual wind speeds more like 8 to 15 miles per hour. Now, by the time we get to 6, 7 o'clock, our evening lineup is wrapping up and we'll be live at the rodeo. That's when we start to see those wind speeds taper off into a light breeze. Now, I did say around sunset. I made a mistake there. This is what the forecast has. I just misspoke. But here through the afternoon, that's when it's going to be breezy, then coming back down. Overall, this is nothing compared to what we've had the last couple of days. Even Thursday and Friday, mostly keeping that light breeze. It's just during the typical hours, during the afternoon, that wind speeds pick up a little bit. That's what we're looking at. So for tonight, expect 30s and 40s. A few spots get close to freezing, but they'll be few and far between, mostly in our higher elevations as well. And through Thursday, you can expect 70s and 80s. Sunshine, that light breeze that picks up at times through the afternoon, then further into the 80s. Then by Sunday, mid to upper 80s with a few 90s expected through Monday, through Tuesday, and then that next round of the high pressure flattening a little bit. Now, during this entire time, some clouds are expected, but Really, we have this dip in temperatures on Wednesday. We could actually continue to warm up. It's just some of the long range forecast models, when they get to the end of the 7 day planner, they tend to trend closer to seasonable. And that's something we typically see this time of the year. So I wouldn't be surprised if those numbers came up again here through the next couple of days. But ultimately, our weather headlines include this high desert summertime preview, sunshine, few clouds, and dry conditions with temperatures warming well into the 80s through this weekend. There's no precipitation in sight. There's very little cloud cover across not just the high desert, but the entire state. And something I like to remind everybody of this time of the year when we start to warm up once again, those vehicle temps. You've seen this graphic a couple times already this year, but just a quick reminder, when outside temperatures, or this is considering all your windows are rolled up, and the car's off, no AC running. When the outside temperature gets between 70 and 80 degrees, it only takes 10 minutes for the inside temperature to heat up another 10 to 20 degrees, and then in 30 minutes we're sitting in the triple digits inside those cars. So check the back seat. Make sure you don't have any fur babies or any human babies that are left in the car, because it gets pretty hot in there pretty quickly. But that is it. That's the latest in weather. Join us tonight on Central Oregon Daily News. We will have the latest headlines and your most reliable forecast live from the Sisters Rodeo. It's going to be fun. And then at 11 o'clock on ABC and CBS. We'll see you then.